few books that I have read relatively recently, some pretty recently, and then others just a few months or years before that. Two of the books that stand out in mind to me when I think about this, and it reminds me of the concepts that I think are troubling us the most in our generation. One is Mastery by Robert Greene. Mm-hmm. Great book.
Just finished it.
It's a very good book. And the entire book is about how people who were great at their craft became great. And if you read their stories, you'll learn that obviously it's not like one of the people he talks about is Leonardo da Vinci. It's not like Leonardo da Vinci woke up one day and was painting incredible paintings. Like there was this long process of apprenticeship and this long period of suffering. Even the fact that da Vinci was like an illegitimate child, so he didn't have all the rights and privileges of having like some of the more noble professions. So he had to go into art, and because he had to go into art, and he wasn't allowed to like live in his father's house, he had to study and become an apprentice. And he went through this whole process. And the idea of mastery, I think, a lot is lost on our generation. The idea of becoming really, really good at something. And you can tell that because of the social media use that we have, and because of the way that our attention, the arc of our attention now, and how short that arc is. If I'm watching a YouTube video, and it's a 2-minute video, if by 45 seconds that video isn't immediately captivating me, I'm on to the next one. Mm-hmm. And it's because we're losing our ability to focus deeply on something even when it's boring. Mm-hmm. Which is another thing. There's another book by Cal Newport called Deep Focus, it's called Deep Work, and it just talks, again, kind of links in with mastery, talking about the ability to go really deep on a skill that you're trying to build, or go deep in a path you're trying to take in your life. We don't accept boredom anymore. We don't.
No, we don't. And we've made in our minds, we've somehow confused passionate with entertaining.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So like that means if I'm so passionate about this thing, but that means I need to be entertained by it all the time. No, it takes a lot of work to get good at something. And that means struggle, that means hardship, and that means a lot of boredom.
Yeah.
And with all these fucking distractions, I mean, look, I have 2 phones, I've got a laptop, you've got the phones, there's all these distractions coming at us that are just begging for our attention, that it's so easy to give up at every moment, and therefore we feel like, oh, we're let down, we're not making.
It's hard to go deep. It's hard to go deep.
It's really hard to go deep and to focus on something. And then you place that within the context of everything that I was talking about.
But then you have this constant dissatisfaction because I feel like a lot of satisfaction goes from getting deep into something, deep into relationships, deep into a skill or a craft. You look at athletes. Back in the day, when Terrell Owens was still playing, I used to think it was amazing how he would run down the field 60, 70, 80 yards and catch a pass and just score and make it look so easy. Mm-hmm. He's just a complete animal. He's 6'4", he's 230, absolute monster.
And yet incredibly graceful in his technique, because he has to do that every day for
that. And the thing I was even thinking of, and even in addition to that, is people say, oh man, it must feel so great to be so good at something. Mm. And it probably does feel great to be able to catch an 80-yard pass running at top speed and score and make millions of dollars to do it. But it only feels great because you've gotten to the mastery point. Mastery does feel great. Being really good at something feels great, you're right. But in order to get really good at something, you have to go through a long period, sometimes 5, 10, 20 years of sucking at it. In fact, the only common denominator between all these great masters is that they sucked at something. And our generation hates sucking at things.
It's true.
Which is why we have all these apps and services and all this bullshit to try to make the instances of us sucking or getting rejected even less.